Hello everyone, Tina here for Papertrey Ink. I hope your day's going fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, today I'm super excited to share a card with you. We're doing a little hot foiling along with stamping, and we're using some new items from the Papertrey Ink Shop. We have the Leave It To Me stamp set. There's a coordinating die set that will cut out those pretty leaves. We're using this hot foil plate, and it's called Exquisite Leaf Frame. And then we're using a greeting from the Give Thanks Sentiments stamp set. So we're going to put all of these together and create a beautiful fall card. We're going to start by doing a little bit of hot foiling. I have my glimmer machine heating off to the left here. We're going to bring this in, and for the most part I want this frame centered on an A2 panel. So to help with that, I'm bringing in a piece of printer paper and I'm placing that underneath my foil plate. This is going to be a guide for me. I'm going to bring in some foil. This is espresso bean. It's like a brown chocolatey color, and I thought we would use this for a background. I think it's a nice fall color. This is where my printer paper comes in handy. I'm going to place my foil on top of my glimmer plate, and then I will add my cardstock panel and lining up the left and the bottom edge. This just helps me guide my way on that panel so I can get it somewhat straight. I'm using Terracotta tile cardstock for my panel, and I did double it up because I was afraid that it wouldn't foil nicely because my sandwich. I kind of have to play around with my placement. I did have a little non-foiling on the bottom, but I think I can get away with this only because we're going to be adding a corner filled with fall leaves. So rather than redo it, I think we can get away with it. It's not too bad anyway. I am going to trim down the sides of this, kind of straighten up that frame on my terracotta tile cardstock, and plus this also leaves me a little bit of a border, which I already placed that on my card base. Now we're going to do some stamping with our Leave It To Me stamp set. I love the leaves in here. There are two parts to them. One stamps the leaf portion, the other stamps the veins. I'm going to use my inks to stamp the leaf portion, and for the first one we're going to use dark chocolate, and then we'll stamp this on white cardstock. For my next leaf, we're going to bring in our ripe avocado. Nope, you know what, let's bring in Canyon Clay ink for this leaf. And again, all of these have that a stem, so when I'm stamping these, I'm making sure I can space them enough so when I die cut, there's going to be a stem along with it. Now we're going to bring in another leaf. I like this one here because I want to use my green ink, and we're going to stamp this with ripe avocado. I chose nice traditional fall colors. Sometimes I like to shake it up a bit. Sometimes I like to go traditional. And we'll stamp this one twice. And there's also another image that has a stem with some berries. I thought we would add that also. So there's a circle image in here. We're going to stamp that. And that is where our honey nut ink will come in. And I'm going to stamp this one twice also. Now for the stems of my leaves, we're going to heat emboss with some gold embossing powder, but for the berries, I'm going to stamp my stem portion with my dark chocolate ink. We'll go ahead and line this up and stamp them. It's very easy to line up. You can see I'm not using my stamping positioner, so I think it's the two-step stamps are always nice with acrylic blocks. So my berries are done. Now to do my gold embossing, I need to trait my paper with my anti-static powder tool. This way I don't have any flyaway embossing powder. And I'm going to take my first leaf, and there's two of them that look pretty similar as far as the vein and the stems go, so a good way to figure out which is just take your stamp set and line it over your stamped image. Now I'm using my white pigment ink to stamp the stems. You could use Versamark, And there's no reason why I'm using the white, except for the fact that my Versamark is a little bit on the dry side. I need to re-ink it, and I have a nice juicy white pigment e-pad, so I went for that. So we stamped all of our stem areas. I'm going to bring in my gold embossing powder, and we're going to go over all those stems with the gold. I thought gold and foiling go really pretty together, and plus I think gold goes really good with fall cards. It adds a little bit of elegance to your card. I'm going to use my heat gun, and we will melt this. So we have a little added gold touch to those. And then I really like that gold. So there's a long leaf image in our stamp set. I'm going to stamp that, and I'll stamp that and heat emboss this with gold also. And we'll melt this one. Now I'm going to bring in my stamping positioner, and we are going to stamp our greeting directly on our card base. I'm going to place this in here, and we're going to emboss with white embossing powder for our greeting. So I'll treat my card base with my anti-static powder tool. And originally I was going to create a portrait style card, and then I loved the smaller sentiments in the stamp set because there is a scripty font and then there's a block letter font. So we're just going to switch it out and create a landscape style card, and I chose the greeting that said "Thankful for you." We're going to position it where we want it to go, towards the upper right, and then I'll go over this with my white ink. And for my greeting, since we have a little bit of a white background on our leaves, I thought we would heat emboss this rather than with gold. We'll use white. So we'll just tap away the excess. I'll bring in my heat gun and we will melt that. And once we have this melted, I'll go ahead and die cut out all of my leaves. Now we're going to create a little bit of a flourish in the bottom left corner. I'm going to pop up all of my leaves, and I do want to mention that I did stamp one more of those gold leaves that we stamped. I thought we would need two, but we're going to use the bigger leaves in this bottom left corner, and then we'll kind of trail out under the sentiment and then to the left of the sentiment. And I am popping these up, but I'm not pressing down too hard on them because I like to play around with my placement. And then once I'm happy, I'll press down really good. That way that foam tape can really tack down everything. Okay, I think that looks really pretty. We're gonna bring in something for that bottom corner to cover up the stems of our leaves. And I thought a vintage craft button would work great. I found one, and then I have some white twine. We're going to thread some white twine through that button, and then I'm going to tie a bow with it. I did bring in a large glue dot so we can secure that right over that bottom corner. This is a great way to hide the stems and just to make it a complete look. I think vintage buttons, at least wooden buttons or craft buttons, look great for fall. After we have this done, we're going to bring in some green gems for a little bit of sparkle, and I'm just going to add a few. And then after we have our gems done and adhered, we are going to bring in a little bit of glaze to our berries. I'm using Glossy Accents. This is going to create a little bit of dimension to those berries, and it's going to give it shine also. And then that finishes off my card today for Papertrey Ink. Everything that I used today is brand new over the shop. But thanks for joining me. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.